Hello everybody, this is Albert with Green Tea House. I hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to talk about 5 ways you can ruin your tea. Now before we begin, if you haven't been here already, come visit us in New Braunfels, Texas. We're in a little tourist area called Green, hence the name Green Tea House. Also subscribe and hit the notification bell so these episodes come fresh to you, and post a comment. I'm dressed up in a suit because we just hosted an afternoon tea party that we do in collaboration with Austin Tea Company. Sarah over there makes the food and we provide the tea. So I like to dress up. And in general, when it gets cooler, you'll see me wearing more suits and sports coats and cardigans. Casey likes to make fun of me that I dress up like Mr. Rogers. Either way, how do you ruin your tea? Well, these are no particular order, but we believe you should have an optimal tea experience. We actually have a playlist here called Optimizing Your Tea Experience. And part of the reason why we serve our tea in glass teapots is so you can look at the tea. The reason we infuse and you pull out the leaves and put them on a little plate so you can smell the leaves. So we try to do essentially a 5 sense visual spectacle. You taste the tea, you look at the tea, you smell the tea, you can touch the tea leaves, you can pull them out and smell them and all these things. So we try to maximize those things. So at home, it'd be smart to kind of mirror those things. Now, we're not telling you have to buy one of the glass teapots that we sell. What I'm saying is that don't make cardinal mistakes that are going to ruin your tea tasting experience. And these 5 are just cardinal mistakes that, look, we've all made in the past. So in no particular order. Not storing your tea properly. The cardinal rule here, and there's a lot, and we have a separate episode here, and I'll try to remember to put the banner up here for. The cardinal rule here is that oxygen and sunlight and humidity, all bad for tea. So when you're storing your loose leaf tea, don't do any of those things. So notice in the back, we have airtight canisters. Do that. I'm not saying it has to be airtight. What I'm saying is put it in your pantry, away from your spices. Don't put your tea as a whole in the refrigerator. You can store matcha canisters that have been unopened, for example, in the freezer. I would say as a whole, though, keep your tea leaves that have not been used outside of the refrigerator. Keep them away from your spice area because they are lipophilic. They're going to absorb the tea leaves, even if you have it in a bag, are going to absorb the taste of the spices. And keep it away from light because that will lead to photodegradation. So improper storage is a big thing. In general, dark, room temperature, preferably airtight. Number 2, brewing your tea too hot. And this is a cardinal mistake, especially with the lighter to no oxidized teas. Tea has 6 categories, as we talked about ad nauseum here. So with your greens, your whites, your yellows, your oolongs, and I would even go to your light blacks, and you can even say blacks in general. If you steep too long, you will make them astringent, otherwise bitter. Now, tea in general does have astringency, and there's a good level of it. A good level of it will not make you, that's high astringency. You don't want to do that. So if you're drinking anything that is oolong and to the left, so whites, yellows, greens, and oolongs, if you steep them too long, they'll get really bitter. So what's too long? Depends on the tea. I would say a good standard is 3 minutes. Don't infuse those for more than 3 minutes. But some people are like, Gregory, a black, a steeped first flush Darjeeling at 3 minutes, it won't be full tasting. I'm saying like if you have to stick and just remember one number, I would say 3 minutes. Because some would argue even on the Japanese side, 3 minutes is way too long to get the maximal taste, like if you're trying to do a gyokuro, for example. So I'd say 3 minutes. Don't overinfuse more than 3 minutes, and of course you can reuse your tea leaves. Number 2 would be using too hot of a temperature. This will ruin your tea experience because, again, bitterness. So too long and too hot. Now we're not going to talk about here too much on each category and what's the ideal brewing temperature. I would tell you in general that if it's not a black, a pu'er, otherwise known as a dark tea, or a tisane, otherwise known as an herbal, and there are exceptions even in the tisane section. For example, yerba mate, we would not do at full boil. But as a whole, black, pu'er, tisanes, full boil is okay. Everything else, you're doing it way too hot. And so if you have to do like just one temperature to do all your teas, and again, if I have to just kind of generalize, I do about 185, because 185 would make your greens a little bitter, but not so bitter if it was full boil. And 185, you'll still get the release of theorubigens and theoflavonoids that you would get from the blacks. And it won't be the ideal taste, but you won't be underbrewing it on those too much. So 185 would be a standard temperature. Another one that I would probably tell you, and you could argue that this is maybe the most important one, but the next two would be important, would be adulterating it with milk and sugar. And look, okay, I don't want to be a purist. We have an episode here, and watch out for the tea purists, like you see in the wine world. Oh, the wine person, you're drinking a red with fish. They stick their nose out. We're not like that here, but I would say, look, if it's not black, like a robust black, like an Assam blend or a Keeman, like the chais, I would really recommend you don't milk anything aside from those. And when it comes to sweetening, you're going to find people who believe different things. There's one argument that says, hey, if you want to sweeten your tea, regardless if it's a white or a yellow, then do it. Whatever you want to sweeten to taste to make it palatable to you, that's fine. I would tell you in general that I would have more of a kind of a traditional view of sweetening, and I would say if it's a green, a white, a yellow, an oolong, and a light black, and a pu'er, I would not sweeten. And when it comes to the tisanes, I mean, look, you could put some sugar and milk and cinnamon, straight cinnamon, and some other ones. But in general, I would tell you to drink them straight, because what do we know? When you put milk and sugar, you're adding calories, and most importantly, no nutrition. So sugar is a major problem in America right now. It's leading to the obesity epidemic. So we really want to kind of wean our way down, where maybe you might be doing a lot of sugar, and then let's go to half sugar, and then eventually develop a taste for tea. Because tea, to be fully appreciated, you can't be sullying it or adulterating it with milk and sugar, because it's going to mask the actual taste of Camellia sinensis the way we've been drinking it for centuries. The last one I want to tell you is, look, don't buy an inferior product. And I'm not saying that you have to buy from Green Tea House and that we have the most preeminent teas on the planet. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is avoid tea bag tea, because tea bag tea is intended and meant to be garbage. It's the McDonald's of ground beef. It's not meant to be good. We've talked about the history of tea bags, Joseph Sullivan, about 120 years ago, and it's the sawdust, it's the leftovers, it's the inferior grade as a whole. And if you doubt that, cut open your tea bag of Earl Grey or chai or green tea, open it and pour it out and see what you're looking at, and then juxtapose it with actual loose leaf tea of that same cultivar, and you'll see that it's better. So the worst way to sully your tea experience is drinking tea bag tea. Get loose leaf tea. It's a much better quality. Guys, these are 5 things. Post in the comments if you agree or disagree, or if you want to elaborate on temperature, steeping times, how you're storing it. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take care and God bless.